So I'm Craig. I'm the UK Service Director for Fox. I also oversee the national training program on the technical side and also do a bit of product management as well as a sort of a link between ourselves and our HQ. So yeah, and I'll just get Greg introduce himself as well.
Good morning. My name is Greg Hockin. I'm the UK account manager for Fox, and my role basically is the commercial side, making sure we've got plenty of stock coming into the UK, and I also attend events and trade events to do promotional training and sales and product training.
What we're going to do today then is we're going to, the primary objective here is to give you a good thorough run through of the product range. Okay, so we're going to focus in on primarily hybrid inverters, okay, single phase, three phase hybrid inverters and AC chargers, and obviously give you an overview of the battery range as well. Fox is a little bit unique in this space really in terms of how we're structured as a company. We're part of a much larger group of companies. The sort of overarching company is Tingshang Group, and collectively we are probably the biggest company in this space. Within our group of companies, we have what you can see it on screen there. We upstream sort of operations where we actually mine lithium. We're one of the world's biggest lithium mining operations. We have the midstream battery production where we manufacture battery cells, and then downstream is really Fox as a brand. You know, we manufacture, assemble the products and bring them to market. This all gives us a very unique advantage in terms of things like supply chain, price point, product development. Products are fully integrated and designed from the ground up. So yeah, Fox is a little bit different in terms of how it operates, and it does give us some unique advantages over the competition. We'll probably cover this more at the end actually in the Q&A section, but just to give you an overview of the UK operation for Fox. But we have a main service base in the Midlands in Coventry, where I'm sat now. We have field engineers dotted around the country, and we have commercial operations. Greg obviously is based down in the southwest. We have our main commercial operations in Berkshire and Reading. So we have a really thorough UK presence. All service and support is all done from our UK service centre with our UK technicians. But we will cover that a little bit more as we get to the end. Something I'm going to mention to you before we skip into the products is we do run an elite installer scheme. It does require that you come on formal Fox training. We can share details of how you do that later. Unlike a number of other manufacturers, we don't insist that you come on Fox training before installing our products. Anybody's free to go onto Segen, buy the products and install them. As we'll mention as we go through this presentation, our products are very easy to install comparatively. Installation and commissioning is very straightforward. We therefore allow you just freely to go out, buy our products, install them. You've got the use of our service lines over the phones. You've got our online materials. So we don't insist on it. However, it is something that we do recommend. So therefore, we do offer this elite installer scheme. So like I said just a few minutes ago, if you are interested in the formal training, it's something we can share with you later and give you the online link. There's basically an online link you can go and you can book yourself on either a remote course or an in-person course here at our service office. Okay, we're going to excuse me. So we're going to cover, like I said earlier, hybrid inverters, AC chargers initially. Some of the advantages are shown on there, and nothing out of the ordinary there. All of our products are IP65, so they're all suitable for outdoor use. There is some newer products coming next year, which I'll touch on at the end, but we'll get straight into the overview. Okay, so you can see there, that's a summary of our single phase products. Okay, so top row, you've got our grid-tied inverters, single phase grid-tied, and then beneath that, you've got our single phase hybrid inverters and AC chargers, which we'll cover in a bit of detail in a second. On the three phase, there's a summary of our range there, starting with our H3 hybrid inverter top left, working across to our H3 Pro. It's our newer, larger three-phase hybrid inverter, and there's a selection of our grid-tied three-phase units there as well. We will cover these individually as we go through. And there's an overview, quick summary of our battery range. We're going to focus in, we'll cover all of these batteries, but the main focus will probably be the Energy Cube and the EP series as we go through it. Okay, so to introduce you to sort of bread and butter hybrid inverter, our single phase H1 model. This is a 3 to 6 kilowatt dual MPPT hybrid inverter or AC charger. 3 to 6 kilowatts, but you can oversize into this. The ratio is 150%, so you can oversize into this model. There is a hybrid and an AC coupled variant of it. However, you can't AC couple the hybrid unit. It works exactly the same. So, you know, if you wanted to install an AC coupled system, you could use our hybrid inverter. You don't necessarily need to source the AC variant. You can parallel these inverters as well. So you can parallel up to 10 of these. These will work as a proper parallel system where all the inverters are working in sync and controlled through the master inverter. We'll cover that in a bit more detail as we go through the rest of the range. That's a very, very quick overview of that. A couple of things to mention on it. This is installed, and we're not going to try and get too technical today. We're going to keep it as an overview, but this is installed as any other inverter would be with your DC inputs and your AC. The only additional element would be a CT clamp. So we don't require that you use a Modbus meter for grid monitoring. You can just wire back a very simple current transformer from the incoming live tails back to the inverter. So it's, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's a very, very straightforward installation process. Moving on from the H1, in response to the demand for bigger single-phase hybrids as systems get larger, as I'm sure many of you are aware, the days of it topping out at 4 kilowatts, they're long gone now. So we've obviously brought out a larger hybrid unit. This is a 7 to 10.5 kilowatt model. And again, the oversize ratio is 150% should you need to. Couple of key benefits of this. The larger units, the 9, the 10, the 10.5 are quad trackers. They're 4 independent MPPTs, which is, I think, unique in the market. The smaller unit within this range is 3. So there's loads of flexibility in terms of system design, string sizing, and that sort of thing. Again, you can parallel these. So, you know, 2 of these in parallel on a 20 kilowatt single phase PV array will work very well. And as we'll discuss probably when we get onto the batteries, you can achieve very high rates of charge and discharge with our products owing to the way that they're configured. Okay, so we'll cover that in a bit. Again, this connects back to the incoming mains with a simple CT clamp. There is a Modbus meter option for longer cable runs, but 35 meters is sufficient to use the CT as supplied. CT comes in the box, so you don't need to order anything extra. In fact, worth making that point that with our products, when you buy them from Segen, you get everything you need. There's no additional components required. Data loggers. So all of our units are compatible with our USB data logging sticks. In the box, for every product you order from us, you will get a Wi-Fi USB data logger, standard issue. Simple pairing process between inverter and home router. And obviously then there's the Fox Cloud for accessing the data and for remote monitoring. We do a LAN data logger option as well. So if you want to hardwire the connection between the inverter and the router, that's an option, but it is an option. It would be an additional purchase. So it's something you would determine at the point of survey to decide if you needed a LAN data logger. You can go direct from that data logging stick to the router, or you could use a power line, a TP link. Very rarely is that not feasible. So, you know, you don't have to hardwire the whole way. In addition, we do a 4G data logger as well. Again, it's USB, it's plug and play. Now, importantly, that data logger comes with a built-in SIM card. That's with Vodafone and as an inclusive 5-year data plan. We don't enable you to extend the 5 years or to remove the SIM card. The idea of this was it would be plug and play. Obviously, this has uses for those sites that don't have an internet connection. They're few and far between, but it can happen. But most commonly, the 4G data logger is used on projects, new builds, housing associations, local councils, house builders will use it, particularly on build-to-rent schemes and things like that. So it's, you know, it doesn't require a change of connection every time there's a new tenant. So that's an option. Again, it's an additional purchase. So you would need to buy that in because you only get the Wi-Fi data logger as standard. Okay, so we've done very quickly, we've just covered the 2 single-phase hybrid units. Moving on to 3-phase. Okay, we have the H3, which is our 5 to 12 kilowatt entry-level hybrid inverter AC charger. Okay, again, you know, all of these hybrids can go in as grid-tied inverters without batteries. If you wanted to, you can add batteries later. This one, again, there is an AC variant. It's called the AC3, but you can AC couple with the H3 as well without any fuss. An IP65 inverter, this connects back to a meter, which is always supplied with the product. Okay, we supply a Chint. It's a DTSU 666 and it comes with CT. So that's you connect that back to the incoming supply. And again, you can parallel these inverters as well. So for system scalability, all of our inverters can be paralleled just using data cables to link them together in a kind of daisy chain to expand the system. Finally, on the hybrid range, then we've got the H3 Pro. This is a recent release. This has been in the market for 2 to 3 months now. It's a 15 to 30 kilowatt hybrid inverter. You can AC couple this as well. Again, this is scalable. Okay, so you can install up to 10 of these in parallel. So you can get to quite large, some medium to large commercial installations with these linked together. There's already a number of these already out there where you've got 5, 6, 7 of these in parallel, working with battery stacks, maximum battery stacks, which we'll talk about shortly. 3 MPPTs on this one, two inputs per MPPT, so there's loads of flexibility on string design. So you know it's very flexible in that sense. Slight difference on this, just you know, again, you know, this is something we'd cover more in the technical training. But unlike the other inverters I've mentioned so far, for the parallel function on this one, you do need an EMS. It's called the Smart Logger. It's an energy management system, and you would need that in order to install these in parallel. That's referenced on the Segen product listing, so it would alert you to that fact should you need to expand the system out and run inverters in parallel for scalability. Okay, quick run through of the 3-phase grid-tied inverters. We offer the R series. This is a 75 to it's actually to 110 kilowatts. That's we're not quite at the 135 mark yet, but it will get larger. This has got up to sort of 10 MPPTs, 2 inputs per tracker, so up to 20 inputs on this. This is an IP66 inverter because obviously, you know, it does routinely go in on small solar farms and large-scale commercial projects. This can actually work as well in alongside the H3 Pro, which you just mentioned. So they all connect into the same EMS I've mentioned. So if you've got a site where you want to have grid tied on the PV, but have effectively AC coupled storage, you can link this with the H3 Pro through the EMS and have site-wide export limitations set through that EMS device. So that is designed to work alongside the H3 Pro. We could start with the biggest, but just coming down in size, the T series is a 3 to 25 kilowatt 3-phase grid-tied inverter. We do have a new range coming as well that will sit in between the R series and the T series, the 2 3-phase grid-tied inverters I've just mentioned, which will be called the U series, coming out later this year, which will be a 30, 40, 50 kilowatt model. Okay, so there is a slight gap in our range at the moment, but that'll be filled with a new product very, very soon. Don't want to dwell too much on the grid-tied inverters because I think, you know, you understand that these are pretty standard products in that sense, but I'll just obviously cover them so you have an idea of what we have in the range. We've come all the way back from the largest down to the smallest. Okay, so this is a coming soon product. Okay, so I don't want to go into too much detail here. It will be available later this year. It's our new microinverter. Okay, so we're going to release this in 4 variants: 600 watt, 800 watt, a kilowatt, and 1.2. This is a 2-panel microinverter. Okay, so it's a dual MPPT microinverter. So you still get that per panel optimization and optimized output, but you only need 1 unit for every 2 panels. So this will come in into the space currently occupied by Enphase, really, as an alternative to that. It will obviously bring down the cost of microinverters, given that it will be a 2-panel microinverter. It's new product. It's not even listed on Segen yet, so I don't want to go about it too much, but it's just to give you a heads up of what's coming later this year. Also, very, very quickly on that before we move on, it will also have quite a unique monitoring setup. It won't use any external comms hubs. It will just have its own built-in Wi-Fi mesh network, so no external device needed for monitoring. Again, all of these things are covered in more detail on the technical training. Summarizing what I've just covered there, really, so I won't dwell on that too much. IP67, obviously, because it's going on the roof, and videos don't have any audio, so we'll skip them. Okay, so we're going to just now talk about batteries. Okay, so all of the batteries, there is one exception, but primarily all of the batteries I'm about to talk about now are universally compatible with all of the hybrid inverters I've mentioned. Okay, so we've talked about H1, K series for single phase, H3, H3 Pro. Okay, these batteries will all work. Everything's sort of universal with our range. So the Energy Cube then is kind of our flagship battery offering. As you can see, it is a floor-mounted stackable solution. Stacks vertically. It's got a very small footprint. it's a very high density battery as well. So what it enables you to do is get very high amounts of storage in a very small small footprint. It comes in 3 size variants. Okay, so the model numbers are 2900, 4300, and 4800. They roughly equate to the storage capacity, not quite. They're rounded up slightly. You'll see on screen there we give you the exact capacity of each battery. Okay, so the system comprises of 2 elements. So if you look at that image there, you can see an image on the battery on the top with the logo. That is a master battery. So it's a battery and a BMS all in one. And then beneath that, you have slave units. There is no battery to battery cabling whatsoever. Literally, you build this stack, you take the cables we provide between master battery and inverter, so your power cables, your battery and your BMS, and then you turn it on. That is your commissioning of this product. There's nothing else beyond that, apart from build the stack, plug it in, turn it on. So we make the installation and commission as easy as possible. There's no need for you to call us for commissioning. We don't need to approve the install. There's rarely a firmware upgrade needed on install. So, you know, in many respects, you don't really need to talk to us. So the Energy Cube specifically is probably the easiest battery on the market today to install. They're the highest quality LFP prismatic cells. Okay, so again, we mentioned, or I mentioned at the beginning there, talking about our sort of unique sort of company structure, and we mine the lithium. The lithium, by the way, that we mine, you'll find in many of the batteries on the market that we're competing against. Okay, so we obviously, you know, have the highest quality LFP cells. Okay, so long cycle life. I mean, it says 6,000. That's LFP. The chemistry standard, but you know, we offer very long warranties on this now. A 12-year warranty is standard upon registration for the Energy Cube. Rates of charge discharge, I'll probably cover that now because it's a question we get asked a lot. Unfortunately, it's not possible to give you a single figure when we're talking about rates of charge discharge. It is a calculation depending on which inverter you're using and how many batteries you have. So I'll give you a very simple example. Each battery you're seeing there in the stack. Okay, so let's take the one on the right. It's a 3-battery stack. Each battery is around 50 volts. Okay, so that's 150 volts, and you multiply that by the charge discharge current of the inverter. Let's take a H1. So let's take a simple single phase domestic installation. The H1 has a 40 amp rate of charge discharge. If we've got 3 batteries, that's 150 volts. Okay, so you're talking there around 6 kilowatts of continuous charge discharge. Well, in that example, if you're using a H1, that's more than what the inverter can output, because you were talking about 3.75 and 6 kilowatt inverters. So in other words, the rate of charge and discharge is typically the maximum the inverter is capable of outputting. Again, if we talk about the K series, the bigger single phase hybrid, 50 amp charge, so 4 batteries, 200 volts, times your 50 amps is 10 kilowatts. So you can achieve 10 kilowatts of continuous charge and discharge. If you had 2 K series in parallel on a 20 kilowatt system, you could have that on each inverter, and you get 20 kilowatts. So you can see how that scales and how the rates of charge are very high. There is obviously an exception. If you have a very small stack, a 2-battery stack, the rate's going to be slightly lower and might fall slightly below the maximum output of the inverter itself. Hopefully that's clear, because it is a question that we get asked, and it is a calculation that you have to make depending on your setup. Okay, the video there was just going to show you the key USPs really of the Energy Cube system, which I've kind of covered. These videos, I think we've got audio issues, so they're available on our YouTube channel if you want to sort of delve a bit deeper into the products and their features. Okay. So quickly then going through each model. So we've got the 2900, the ECS 2900, which is a 2.88 kilowatt hour model. Okay, so you can scale up to over 20 kilowatt hours on this. It's 90% DOD as standard. Okay, you can't go beneath that 10% retention. You can increase it should you wish to. Wide operating temperature tolerance. These are IP65. They can go outdoors. Again, we mentioned the ease of installation, and that's been updated now. I've not updated this presentation. It's actually a 12-year warranty on the Energy Cube. The 4300, again, this is a 4.14 kilowatt hour unit, scalable up to just a shade under 30 kilowatt hours with a full stack. And again, everything there is the same as it was on the 29 and the 4800s. And the 4800 is now available as a slight variant. It's called the EQ 4800. This actually is scalable up to 9 batteries in a stack. So it's a 4.74 kilowatt hour unit. So you're looking at a maximum capacity of over 42 kilowatt hours on a single stack. This summarizes what I've just said there in terms of scalability. Okay, so your smallest solution in terms of energy cube batteries would be a 2900 stack. Okay, that would mean that the starting point for storage is 5.76 kilowatt hours. Okay, the largest would be 9 ECS 4800s. That will take you to 42 kilowatt hours on a H1 and a K series. It's important to note you can't mix these together. Okay, your stack has to comprise of only 2900s, only 43s, only 48s. You can't mix and match them. Or what you can see there is you've got a big range, 5.76 to 42, and lots of options in between. These can be scaled later, so you can quite easily install a stack and then add a battery later. I mean, as I've mentioned, it's literally a case of powering it down and putting a new battery on, equalizing the SOC, and you're good to go on expansion. So expansion is very straightforward. The H3 is slightly different in terms of you need a 3 minimum. Okay, so your starting point there is 8.64. It's 1 master and 2 slaves on the 2900s. Same top end at 42. H3 Pro is different again because you have 2 battery inputs on the H3 Pro. Okay, so the larger 3-phase hybrid, you can have 2 battery stacks. That means everything in that middle column is doubled, okay? So you can get to 85 kilowatt hours on a H3 Pro with a full quota of storage. And of course, we've mentioned you can scale and parallel the H3 Pros. So technically, you can get to 850 kilowatt hours of storage on a H3 Pro system. Hopefully that's all clear. Moving on then to the next battery, the EP range. Okay, so we have at the moment the EP5 and the EP11, which I'm going to talk about now. We also have an EP3 coming shortly as well. It's not available yet, but it'll be available within a few months. The EP5 is a 5.18 kilowatt hour module. Okay, these go in parallel when you scale rather than series. Okay, so the Energy Cube you install in series, as mentioned, circa 50 volts each. These are high voltage batteries. This is 190 volts plus. And then you parallel when you want to scale. Now, when you parallel these, you do need a junction box to parallel them. Again, it's all covered on the listing on Segen, so it's all clear should you wish to sort of install multiple units. It does parallel side to side though, so just be mindful that with the EP range, you will need a bit of wall space because you are going to have to sort of scale, to the side as you do that. These are wall mounted. Okay, so whereas the Energy Cube is strictly a floor mounted solution, it does have a bracket to secure it against the wall, but you're not mounting it on the wall. The EP5 is a wall mounted solution. You can mount it on the wall on the ground if you want, or you can elevate it, but it must go on the wall because it's a very slim profile battery. And while it will freestand, there is a topple risk there, so it must go on the bracket we provide. Okay, so that's the EP5. The EP11 is essentially double the size. Okay, so this is 10.36 kilowatt hour unit. And again, you can scale up to 4 of these using a junction box, again, wall mounted. Again, these are high voltage batteries, IP65, these can go outdoors. Just a little bit of clarity on the warranty on these. These, and the reason behind this, to give people a bit of background, is we wanted to make a battery, an IP65, easy installed batteries available at the best price point we could. So we're offering this with 2 warranty options. Okay, there's a standard 5-year, and by going with a 5-year option, you're going to get a very, very good battery at a very, very low price per kilowatt hour. Okay, we wanted to make that available at a low price point for people where price is sensitive, and you've got an option there that is high quality, but obviously just opens up storage for customers where there is a where they are price sensitive. Optionally, when you purchase this, you can purchase it for a small uplift with a 10-year warranty. Okay, so it's just making that point because it's not clear on the screen at the moment. So it's available with a 5 or a 10-year warranty through Segen. That's more of an installation video, but I suppose the image you can see on screen just shows you how they do parallel. So it's important that, you know, obviously when you're doing a survey or you're quoting, you're considering it, would the ECS or the EP battery be more suitable here? You've got those options. Small footprint, ECS stacks vertically, bit more room, slightly lower price point. You've got the EP series, which will scale in the way you've seen. As a single battery installation, it's pretty much as straightforward as the Energy Cube. It's, you know, you take your cables we provide from the terminals on the battery into the bottom of the inverter and you power it on. There's nothing more complex than that for commissioning. Okay, a couple of other batteries we've got, which we're going to cover today. We do a low voltage battery. It's called the LV52. It's exclusive to Segen. Okay, and this is compatible with Solis inverters. Okay, so everything else I've mentioned to this point, our inverters and our batteries, obviously designed to work together. You can't use our high voltage batteries with other products. However, this product is available to work with Solis hybrids, 5.2 kilowatt hour. It is an indoor unit. It's not IP65, and it is pretty plug and play as well. So again, exclusive to Segen. So this is a low voltage battery offering to work with Solis. And finally, we have another battery called the HV2600. This is an IP21. It's a stackable system. It sits in brackets we provide. These are circa 2.5 kilowatt hour units. So this again, you know, is a good option. You know, it's available at a lower price point, a lower price per kilowatt hour. High quality cells inside. It's actually the same cells we use in the Energy Cube, but it just obviously is a little bit more industrial looking, not quite as aesthetically pleasing, but you know, in certain applications, this battery is very popular. So we offer this as another alternative high voltage option. That again, because it's high voltage series installed, is subject to minimum and maximum quantities. So this one does have a separate BMS. The Energy Cube, as we mentioned, is the BMS unit is a battery. It's called the master. This has a separate BMS and then units underneath. So again, just be mindful that we operate within minimum and maximum quantities of the batteries to stay within the operating range of the inverter itself. Okay, I just want to give you a bit of a background over the service and support we offer. I mentioned it briefly at the start. All of our support is UK based. Okay, we have a phone line. Okay, it's a UK number. It's the office I'm based out of. You call that from site and you will get through to our first line technicians. Our first line technicians are not just call handlers. They're not just taking a message and getting somebody to call you back. They are very technical and they will deal with 90% of the questions that are put to them. So anything you've got, any question, it doesn't matter if you're on site and you're having issues or you just sat in the office and you just want to clarify something on a technical level, you can call that number. That's what they're there for. The calls will be answered. We've invested heavily in our service and support to make sure that we're there for you when you need us, because there's nothing more frustrating as an installer to be on site, particularly needing assistance, and there's nobody there to help you. So your call will be answered. Beyond the first line team, who again will cover most issues, we do have an escalation service to our second line team. They're either based out of the office or they're working remotely, but they're on the same phone system. So we'll try and transfer the call to a second line technician, particularly if it's going to be quite a long call. Maybe we need to do a video chat with you or that sort of thing. That escalation normally happens in call. Sometimes it can't because the lines are busy, but we do commit to a 10 to 15 minute callback if we do need to escalate your issue to a second line technician. We have an RMA process, of course, which we can cover in more detail with you if you come on our installer training, or if you want any further clarification, or in the Q&A after this, you can ask any questions. But our system is geared around you calling us, when there's an issue, because what we find since we've invested in our service and support teams, and we've come up with a new system, is our failure rates are exceptionally low. They've plummeted from where they were when maybe a year, 2 years ago. We didn't quite have the level of service we have now, and that's by virtue of the fact that the vast majority of issues that are reported to us are resolved over the phone. It might be a simple setting, it might be a firmware issue. It's usually something that we can fix remotely. If we can't, then of course we do have an RMA process. We can go into that in a bit more detail should we wish us to. Okay, so just before we go into the Q&A, I'm going to show you hopefully this works. I'm going to reshare a different screen now. Can you see that on screen? I think it's become quite small, hasn't it?
Yeah, I can see it.
You can
Yeah,
see
it's
it.
fine.
Okay, so it's a bit small on my screen. So this is our new Fox Cloud version 2 app. Okay, so it's available on the App Store and on Google Play, as you can imagine. This was released a few months ago, and it's been going through some changes recently as we add new features and functionality. I'm not going to go into great detail here, but I'll give you a quick overview of it. You can see your energy flow on screen. That's pretty self-explanatory. There's nothing there that's out of the ordinary. Oops. Usual data, stats. This is an end user view. So this is what the end user would see. There is obviously installer level access as well. So I'm just obviously giving you a quick overview of some of the screens. Customer can obviously drill down, and you have to forgive me, I'm using an emulator here on a demo account, so sometimes it can be a bit flaky. Customer can drill down into device level data as well. And they have obviously a range of settings. Now, we don't give users access to a lot of settings. They can adjust their minimum capacity, and they can obviously set charge from grid events as well. So we have something called the mode scheduler. Okay, so it's basically the ability to set up to 8 distinct charge-discharge events. That can be forced charge from grid. It can be forced discharge to grid if they want to export and say Octopus Flux during 4 to 7 p.m. So it's quite an intuitive, easy to configure tool. It's available on the web browser version as well. I'm showing you the obviously the app view. So hopefully that's all clear. I'm just giving you a very quick run through of the user interface. Really, there's obviously more levels of complexity here, which I'm not covering, and it is typically as a. It's gone to the microinverter plant for some reason. Okay, I'm having technical issues here with my Android emulator has frozen, so can't show you any more than that. But hopefully that gives you an overview of the user interface on the app and what that looks like. Like I said, we have a web browser version. It's called foxesscloud.com, and users can access it through the web browser using the same username and password they have for the app. And then obviously they have a little bit more data to drill down into, and they can look at it in a bit more detail, a more detailed level. Greg, I don't know if you've got anything to add at this point. I've kind of tried to keep within the time frame and allow plenty of time for Q&A, really, but I don't know if you've anything you want to add.
No, I think you covered everything there. I was just going to reiterate, I think the fact that all of our products come with everything you require in the box, which is quite different to a lot of other manufacturers. So it does make things much more simple. And as far as stock and everything goes, we do hold plenty here in the UK. So you don't have any issues with that. And I think the main factor to cover over a brief overview of all of it, I did a little bit of a survey with a lot of installers last month and asked them the reason they were using Fox and stuck with us for such a long period of time. And it was the fact that we have such a wide range of product for most installation. It's easy plug and play installation, so it's nice and simple. And also the fact that we do have UK-based technical support, so you've got somebody at the end of the other phone. I think that's the main 3 key points for us at Fox ESS in the UK.
There's a plan for Fox ESS to widen availability in Northern Ireland, and Scotland. Scotland, we already have availability. Obviously Segen will supply to Scotland. They'll supply to Ireland, Northern Ireland as well. We have other distributors, which I mentioned in those areas. One thing we are looking to do, and something we don't currently offer, I think Scotland is the exception, but with Ireland and Northern Ireland, is to increase our level of service and support in that area. I think that's something genuinely we are looking to do. We're hoping to do something within the next 3 to 6 months to have a better coverage. We do support everybody, all of our customers in Northern Ireland and Ireland. But on the ground support is something we're looking to improve. So we're looking to do that before the end of this year.
Yeah, I'm also looking at setting up a northern an island trip with the Segen team over there. So they will be setting up some dates. So I'll be coming over there. So I'll be doing some product training with some of you guys as installers as well. Just getting to get a grips and on the ground to see what more is required for us in that market over in Ireland.
Okay, so I'm going to go from, I don't know what order they're coming in, but I'll go from the bottom. Sorry, mention of Octopus Agile on the app. Is this enabled currently? Yes, it is. So we have an option within the app that it didn't display on the demo I'm showing you because there's no Octopus API key. So what we have within the latest version of the Fox Cloud app, also requiring quite recent firmware on the products, that would be, you know, the main hybrid inverters, is the ability to automate Octopus Agile settings. So that requires that the customer puts in their API key and it gives them a level of control. These controls are going to be improved, but essentially it gives them two options. Is one which is based around automation based on a trigger price. If the Octopus Agile rate within a 30-minute period falls below a certain price, it will schedule a charge. And also an option to set a number of periods per day, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, what our software does is it basically works out what the 4, 5, 6, 7 cheapest periods are for the next day and automatically schedules charge events to coincide with those 30-minute periods. So yeah, that's already available. And yeah, it's going to be improved. We're going to have some more functionality built into that. Somebody I think mentioned about a version 2 of the Fox Cloud web browser version. Yes. So we focused on relaunching the Fox Cloud app several months ago, sort of beginning of the year, and it's been ongoing. The next stage will be to completely relaunch the Fox ESS Cloud website, a completely new user interface, a lot prettier, a lot more intuitive. That process is underway. It's around 8 weeks away from now still. Yeah, so that is coming. Export limitation, how do we set this up? It's done through the settings. So basically, through the Fox Cloud website, you're going, and as installers, you would have, or agents, you would have the ability to set a defined export limit. It can also be done on the inverter. Okay, so if you go through the inverter screen, through the menu tree, there is a menu tree that is in the manuals. You can find the export limit setting, and it's just a defined limit. It could be 0, could be 5 kilowatts, whatever it is you need to set.
Yeah, I was just going to say on the M series, someone's asking when of availability. So the microinverters we'll be looking at towards the end of the year until they'll be hitting the UK market.
Shares a link for the booking installer training. Yes, we can do that. Yes, the hybrid has an EPS function. You have an EPS port on the inverter, and you can just basically come out of that. There's various options for the wiring of that without going into massive detail. You can go anything as basic for going from the EPS output into a double socket, or you can go into a manual switch. You can go into a split board arrangement. The EPS can be set to bypass mode, so it can be always live. So there's various options on the EPS functions, but if you've got a specific question relating to that, it's probably a good idea that you either email us or give us a call and we can talk about it. Do any of the hybrids have black start? Yeah, there's a black start button on the battery. Okay, so there's one on the BMS. Okay, I'm just trying to scroll up through these questions.
The weight of the EP11 is just under 100 kilo. So this one would be a 2-man lift on this particular battery.
Okay, I've system designed with 2 Fox HP Pro 25s in parallel. Yeah, so I've talked a lot about the fact our products are very, very simple to install, and that is the case. Where there's a bit of complexity, it's where you're installing more than one HP Pro in parallel through our EMS. So you need to remember to when you order the HP Pros, you also order the smart logger, we call it, and then basically get in touch with us. Colin, I don't know if it was you. I think I saw an email from somebody asking a similar question. It could have been yourself, but basically, yeah, get in touch with us at the office, and we'll give you some guidance and some documentation as to how to connect those two in parallel. Our products, yeah. So I think pretty much everything we've mentioned today is G102 compliant. Yeah, so they're all G102. Through the app, can we turn off the battery and use the grid overnight, please? Well, there's ways of doing that. You wouldn't turn the battery off, but you can configure the app in such a way that you can effectively prevent it discharging during the night. There are data sheets for the microinverters. Yes, they're available from our downloads page. Again, we're being a little bit reticent here at the moment because it's not officially launched. We're kind of drip feeding information out, but there are data sheets published for the microinverters. If you go to fox-ess.com, go to downloads, you should be able to filter out and download the relevant data sheets. Noise levels, they vary depending on the model. Some models have internal fans, some of the bigger 3-phase for cooling. Others, like the H1 of the K series, are more naturally cooled through heatsink, so they're quieter. But there is a small fan in the K series, for example, for the CPU. If they're working really hard and it's very warm, you might hear some noise from that small internal fan, but it varies depending on the model itself. Okay, so you can set it to what we call unbalanced loads. And what that will do is it will output unevenly across the different phases. However, you do have a cap on that, which is that down one phase, you're limited to outputting up to 33.3% of the inverter's total output. Okay, so if you've got one phase where nothing's happening and others, it will output unevenly, but down one phase, you've got a 1/3 cap on the total inverter output in terms of how much you can put down one phase.
Someone there was asking about the availability of dummy batteries and inverters. Yes, we do have dummies available for display or for show purposes. So yes, if you want to make contact with us regarding that, and we can let you know what the availability is of what product range. At the moment, it's just H1 inverters and energy cube batteries, but we will be bringing in EP5s as well.
Somebody's asked there a question about, last time I looked, 3.6, it was borderline whether it could work with some of the newer higher output PV panel amp. That's correct. Yeah, that's a fair observation. That was addressed with the G2. Now, we're now pretty much exclusively only supplying the Generation 2. That switchover started to happen at the start of the year. So yeah, the H1 G2 has a higher max input current threshold and done specifically to address the issue that panels were getting sort of, higher output. So that's a fair observation, but the G2 has addressed that. Are Fox bringing out any G98 inverters? All of our single phase units are G98 already, so grid tied and hybrids. So I didn't really cover that when I went through the product range, really, but we do single phase grid tied. The S series and the F series are sort of grid tied single phase offerings. So yeah, that's all covered.
I've just seen one there. It was asking whether our hybrid inverters will work as an off-grid for an off-grid system. No, this isn't something we'd recommend. Ours are to be worked as a grid, not as an off-grid system. Yeah,
emergency power supply, it can work off-grid in a power outage, but we don't design them in such a way that they can be permanently off-grid. So that distinction there that Greg's made is important. Fully G99 type tested. There's not a requirement to do it. I mean, it's something that we're most of our products are fully G99. There are somebody explained to me the reason why a couple of the products within the range. It will come to me in a second as to why that's the case.
Yeah, some of the like the R series, the larger grid tile inverters, they will say part testing, but all grid tile inverters of that size are the same. So that's why you'll find that on the NA website.
What is cable ratings for inverters? EPS size, say use 10mm cable. I mean, it is dependent on the specifics of the installation. Our recommendations are quite conservative in our manual. It is a global manual. What we'd say is if you've got any questions about that and you think it's overkill, you can call us, give us the lowdown on the installation, and we can give you guidance on that. With EPS, obviously, you're basically doubling up into the inverter in bypass mode. So everything has to be, uprated. But the breaker and also the cable has to be uprated if you're using EPS, because you've got basically 2 feet of the inverter. So that's the reason why. But sometimes, yes, it has been observed that our recommendations within the manual may be quite, conservative and duly risk averse. But yeah, if you've got any queries on that, just give us a call on the service line, and we'll help you out with that and just give you the reassurance you need.
On that one, are we going to offer a system with whole house backup, like the Tesla? This is something that our R&D team are currently looking into. So yeah, it is something that we are looking at and for our future systems.
Somebody's asked here, we do not understand if the SIM card is included with the Wi-Fi data logger. Well, the Wi-Fi data logger doesn't have a SIM card because it's Wi-Fi. The 4G data logger does, and that's inclusive. That's a 5-year data plan. There's no charge for it. After the 5-year period on the 4G data logger, you have to replace the dongle. Okay, so what we don't enable people to do is play around with the contract with the comms provider. In this case, Vodafone. We don't add that level of complexity. So we simply say it will work for 5 years, probably longer than 5 years, probably 5.5 years in truth. But at that point, there is a requirement to replace the data logger with a new one. Not ideal in every scenario, but it keeps things simple. So that's how that works. On your 3.6 hybrid, the maximum DC says 5.5 kilowatts. Others can go up to 7. Yeah, so the ratio that we stipulate is 150%. We don't think it's good practice to go above that. In truth, technically, it could happen. We can make it do that just through simple software, firmware changes. But we have no real reason for doing that. In truth, because it's not good practice. We do a 7 kilowatt hybrid. So I appreciate that people are perhaps under G98 restrictions and they want to maximize their PV input. And we do allow that to 150% of the inverter's output, but there are no plans to go beyond that at this stage. I am aware that 1 or 2 of the manufacturers do allow a higher max input, but it's not something that's on our radar just yet. So Simon, you're asking about the type test. I'll just come back to you on that. So basically, our products are all compliant. They're all compliant. The only one that isn't at the moment, I think, is the T series. I think is waiting on its G102. Other than that, there's a reason why some products show as partially type tested and others show as fully type tested. I genuinely can't remember why that's the case. So I'll have to come back to you on that. If you get in touch with the email address that you're going to be shared, referencing the particular product that you've got a question about, and I'll come back with a more detailed answer on that. But crucially, everything is G98 that needs to be, everything is G99 that needs to be, everything is G102, everything is compliant. If you've got a particular DNO that's been questioning whether some of the larger 3-phase units are not fully type tested, only partially, I'll come back to you on that because there is a very good reason why that's the case.
I'll see people asking about improving protection to IP66, 67. We do have some of our range already is, but majority is at IP65 already. So it's only a couple of the ranges that are not.
Do National Grid accept that the max export can be set at the inverter? Yes, they can yet. So all of our products that have G100 approval, the G100 type test report that's submitted explains how we control export limitation through a combination of CT or meter and inverter settings, and they're all approved on that basis. So that's no issue at all.
I see it's saying about the 3.6 hybrids, the maximum DC of being 5.5 kilowatt. You're saying that some others can go up to 7. I think that the oversizing of that size is quite a far range. The most efficiency you're going to get is by just going up to the 5.5.
Installer training offered in Ireland. I think that's something we're looking at. I mean, at the moment, what you can do, the link that will be shared with you, I think actually it should have gone into the chat now. I mean, you can do remote sessions. So at the moment, you know, we can offer remote training, but we are looking to change that part. I mean, that's something as I mentioned earlier, in terms of our overall sort of on the ground coverage in Ireland will improve in the next few months. So we'll keep you updated on that. But for now, you're more than welcome to join one of our elite installer remote sessions that's available on that link. Any stipulations for using outside? Okay, so we are a little bit flexible on this. So IP65, obviously within IP65, we do, for example, in our manual specify not to fully expose it to try and avoid it being in direct sunlight for extended periods. We have issued clarity on this to a number of our installation companies on the basis that there is obviously a drive now to install more systems outside. The manuals where we have these sort of recommendations are global manuals. You know, for example, something, in direct sunlight in Dubai, it's very different to being in direct sunlight in the UK. So obviously there isn't a requirement. We say to avoid completely south-facing elevations if it's going to be baked, all day. But for the most part, any outdoor installation is going to be in direct sunlight for a period of time, so it's fine. We've got no issues with that. On canopies, again, they're IP65. They're protected against rain. All we're trying to do there is say to people, don't fully expose it. Don't put it on a flat roof, for example. But for the most part, we don't require canopies to be installed. But there are obviously, it's more of a common sense approach. If you've got any uncertainty and you think, well, I don't want to get caught out by this, just contact us, maybe send us a photograph of the installation location, and we'll confirm in writing that we have no issues with that and it's fine. So it's a common sense approach, really. We don't want to be too restrictive. These things are IP65, but obviously there are certain environments where you probably want to avoid it if at all possible. But there's certainly no definite guidance that you need canopies. We're not making that point at all. The advantages of becoming an elite installer. You will go onto our elite installer map. Now that's actually been taken down momentarily while it's been rebuilt, but that can have advantages. We get a lot of end users obviously contacting us looking for recommendations for installers. We only ever recommend an elite installer, somebody that we know has been through the process and is formally trained. That's one advantage. You get quicker access into updates. There's a technical bulletin you'll receive monthly with key updates. We know who you are, so we can communicate with you. We don't spam you with marketing stuff. It's all, purely technical based. New product launches, you'll get advanced notice of those. But primarily, it's to be listed as an elite installer. You can use the elite installer logo on your website, your marketing materials, and it can be beneficial from a lead generation point of view, as we will recommend you. And when the map goes live, you can be found on our website. So that's the main advantage, really, of having that. And it's pretty painless. We don't charge for the course; it's a free course. If you come here, it's a 2.5-hour course, no more than that. So it's half a day. Or we're now doing it remotely. So, and the remote sessions would be about 2 hours. So it's pretty painless, no charge, no fees or anything like that. On the app, is the PV yield figure only solar generation, or is it total inverter output for the day? It depends on which app you're looking at. So the version 1, what it used to do is group PV output with inverter output, which could have been output from grid charge, for example. That was something that we were aware of for a while, and it was fixed. On our version 2 app. So the version 2 app should be showing PV generation as a separate figure. You can also get the total output figure as well, should you wish to, either through the app or through the web browser. I think Greg answered the IP66 or IP67 question. I mean, I'm reluctant to say too much. There is, I'll probably get my hand slapped for this, but there is a new product coming next year, an all-in-one single-phase unit for outdoors, which will be IP66. As for the other products, that's been discussed as to whether or not the ingress protection will be heightened. But yeah, there will certainly be an IP66 option early in 2025. Yeah, somebody's asking there about a perceived discrepancy on the app. It's something we'd have to look at, because you might need to email us at the email address service.uk@fox-ess.com. I don't think you can see that, but Yeah, and we'll look into it as an individual. The other thing about, you know, when you look at the app, you've got to remember you're looking at data polling points that take a snapshot of the system at that point, send it to the cloud, and then obviously you've got to wait for the next data polling point. Within each individual data polling point, you can sometimes see discrepancies that don't make sense, and that might be because, you know, for example, if you've got a load in the property and you turn it on, let's say a heavy load, it takes our inverters a second and a half to react to that change in load, and you know, and in that time, if the data polls at that precise moment, you might see data that doesn't quite tally what you expect to see, but it would have cleared within a second or two, but you won't necessarily see that until the next data polling point. So little discrepancies like that can occur from time to time. But if you've got like a consistent issue that you're concerned about, then certainly just email us at the email address, and we'll look into it. Just share your serial number for us. That would be great, and we'll look into that and feedback to you.
Someone's asking when the Fox EV will be available from Segen. This is something I can have a discussion to see about the EV charger route to market. So this is something we'll be able to update you on in the future.
When will the microinverter be available? I think, Greg, I mean, you may have a better insight than me.
Yeah, I've already answered that earlier. I think it's going to be more towards the end of the year now, because there's we want to make sure that it is 100% before it gets brought to market.
I think from what I was told that we wanted to get it perfect, and in what we're doing is we're actually using the European markets as a bit of a guinea pig, because I think there's a few things that are quite unique about it, particularly from the monitoring side. So to be honest with you, and this has come from the UK team, we want the thing to be tested within an inch of its life, because it's a bit of a departure for us. Obviously, it's going on the roof. So I think more so than with any other product we've ever launched, this one is having really rigorous testing. Hence, the launch date has been pushed back. It already has G98, G99, and G100. It's already in place, but we're just you know, dotting a few I's and crossing a few T's before we launch it to market. I would guess, Greg, it's going to be sort of October, November, isn't it? I think that's
I would agree. Round about that time we're looking at. I would say probably rolling around about November. By the time everything is, we're like you say, Craig, we're 100% happy with it.
Yeah. So Robert's asked a question about temperature range. It's not chargeable down to -10. You can't charge the batteries below 0. You can discharge to -10. So yeah, so the manual says it will do a forced charge at 3 degrees C and sit at 60%. What that's, I think, referring to, and I'd have to double check, there's mechanisms built in that if the battery falls to a low temperature, it gets below 5 degrees and down to 3 degrees, depending on circumstances, solar production at the point that happens, the system may take some grid charge in order to raise the internal temperature to keep it above 0, and may there's a few variables basically built in. So I say it often does, but it's a protection measure to raise the internal temperature by using small bursts of grid charge, and it's called, you know, we call it battery recovery. Just on that, by the way, we're obviously conscious of the fact that the new documentation, the new guidelines, the sort of best practice guidelines, which aren't regulations but are being adopted, obviously are trying to encourage more outdoor installations. There are mechanisms built in already for the batteries to self-regulate on temperature, but we're adding to that. There's changes being developed now, which will be implemented into the ECS batteries and the EP batteries. Anything manufactured from August onwards, middle of August onwards, will have additional functionality built in for temperature control. Basically, heating elements that are going to be added to the batteries, which can just be configured through settings to better protect the batteries and to maintain their high charge rates, basically, by keeping the internal temperature higher. So we'll have more information on that and when they're available. They will filter in to the stock at Segen before the winter, and we'll make sure that they'll be listed, I think, with a particular suffix on the part number to denote the fact that they have this this facility built in for where you've got outdoor installations, particularly in very cold environments. You know, we talked about Scotland and in the Lake District and places like that can get very cold. Yeah, so just to give you that heads up that is coming quite shortly.
It's got one here. Can microinverters work alongside hybrid inverters? Yes, this should be the case. Same with the microinverters that are on the market.
It would depend in terms of what they're looking to do. Our microinverters won't have a direct storage option initially. So, like Greg says, if you're looking to store, then you could install one of our hybrids or AC chargers on an AC coupled basis and store the energy that way. If that was what was that question, then yes, they will work. Well, the Fox EV, that's the only question we haven't really covered, I guess. It's a bit of an unknown in terms of commercially. I can't say anything at the minute. Yeah, there are some commercial issues there that mean we can't talk about it just yet. But we'll obviously have an announcement on that in due course.
I think that's covered everything there, all the Q&A.
Just want to say a massive thank you then to Greg and Craig for running such a fantastic webinar. And other than that, I think we'll leave it there. So everyone have a fantastic rest of your week and we'll speak shortly.
Thanks very much. Thanks all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Imogen.
Bye now.
Thank you later.